Of meeting practice. This council meeting is being recorded and will be placed on council's webpage for public information. All present today are reminded that by speaking you are agreeing to your view and comments being recorded and published. You are also reminded that if or when speaking you are to be respectful to others and use appropriate language. Greater Hume Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. I would like to call on Councillor Annette Shulg, who will lead us in prayer. Thank you, Councillor Shulg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all our blessings. We ask for your strength and guidance throughout this meeting and thereafter as we look to serve the residents of this Shire. We ask for clear thinking and sincere hearts as we approach the business matters we will be discussing shortly. We ask for your blessings upon this meeting, each participant and the work and people they represent. Amen.
Thank you. Item number 2, the acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri people, and I pay my respect to their elders past and present. Item number 3, the declarations of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest. 0, thank you. We do have 2 apologies tonight from Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Parker, so I need a motion to accept those apologies. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Quinn, thank you. Yes, I just should note that leave of absence would be granted for those 2. And I'd ask you to vote those in favour. Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, which are in front of you.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Meyer and Councillor Weston, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any comments? Any problems? No? No? None? It's been moved and seconded. Any opposition? I declare it carried. Thank you. Action from the minutes. Please state the item number and the page number if there is any.
Madam Mayor, if I might, it's on page 15 and it is item number 5426 or minute number 5426. I note we still have put in a request for an update from Department of Planning. Has there been any response in the few days since we received these papers? It's the new dwelling, Walla Walla Jindra Road.
Yes.
Councillor Shulg.
Yes, page 7, minute number 5273. Just looking at that before, is there a particular reason that there's that's been there since May for the reimbursement of that money? Thank you, Mr. Kane.
We'll ensure it's paid, Councillor Shulg.
Councillor Weston.
Madam Mayor, could I draw your attention to minute number 5195? It's the loose fill asbestos insulation, the last one there, Mr. GM. Further application for the remaining funding. What was that asked for?
Basically, when they approved the original funding, they wouldn't approve the, with the Holbrook men's shed, they wouldn't approve the land as being an eligible item. So what we've gone back to them is, and hence that prompted the report to the last council meeting about council if you like, entering into a loan with the Holbrook Men's Shed to purchase the land over a period of 10 years. So then we've gone back to them in relation to replacing the land with other items like security fencing and a disabled toilet as being eligible items. So that's been submitted to them. Those new quotes have been submitted to them. And I would hope in the not too distant future that will be approved. In relation to the amount of money for Colcan, the $5,700 odd, that's been approved, so that's not a problem. It was really just surrounding the Holbrook Men's Shed and the ineligibility of the land and replacing it with 2 other items. Okay, yeah.
Any other queries, councillors? Councillor Meyer?
On page number 13, fixing country road applications, particularly in reference to the Grubben Road widening to do with the new rail crossing, and I'm going back a step to ask what's the next stage of the program in terms of the fact that the water main has now been put in and completed. I understand that the Telstra cables and coaxial cable are probably next, and I have also asked you privately when we start taking the trees out. And you gave me an explanation that I'd love you to give to council about all the impediments being placed in taking these trees out.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Mayor. In regard to that project, we are having a lot of walls placed in front of us by other authorities other than ourselves. We're at the beck and call of ARTC, Telstra, NBN and RMS. RMS's environmental is being very difficult with what we have to do and how we have to do it. But our next stage, now that the water main is complete, will be, I have a meeting up there tomorrow with NBN and Telstra and our tree contractor to work out how we're going to go about it and our action plan, how they're going to do the work, and then get that approved by RMS. Hopefully what will happen is that early in the new year, as soon as Telstra are able, which is around about the 10th or 12th, they've got a ban on doing any work until then, over the Christmas period, that they will get in and do their Telstra relocation, because Telstra own all the conduits and NBN own the cables that go in the conduits. So we've got to wait for Telstra to do their bit with their contractor before NBN's contractor can come in to put their cables through Telstra's conduits. Once that's all done and the old lines are dead, then we're able to pull out the tree trunks and trees that are left and carry on. If we can't get in to do that quickly, then all we can do is cut the trees down, leave the stumps, and then pull the stumps out at a later time. But there is a lot of issues that we have up there.
I'm still hopeful, Madam Mayor, that the project can be finished before next September.
We are.
Okay, we'll all keep our fingers crossed for you, Councillor Meyer.
Keep your fingers crossed, we're going to make it happen, Madam Mayor.
I'll ensure that the Director of Engineering puts an updated report to the February meeting. Councillor Meyer.
Any further questions? No, we'll move along. Officers' reports, Part A for determination, item number 1, development application for a dwelling, carport, garden shed and shipping container at Gerodgery.
I'll move that.
Councillor Hicks has moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Knight. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Hicks? Is there anyone speaking for or against?
Just a quick comment, Madam Mayor. This is the second dwelling approved in less than 2 months in the Gerodgery West, which would be pro rata be the fastest growing area in Australia.
Very good. Is there any opposition? If not, no, that's been passed. Thank you.
To move the next item, the one regarding the dwelling, carport, etc. in, the dwelling in King Street.
Yes, item number 2.
I'll second that.
Yes, Councillor Knight and Councillor Hicks moved and seconded. Do you wish to speak, councillor Knight?
I can't see anything in the objections that can't be overcome by tree planting or anything like that, so it should proceed.
I was just going to comment, I think the applicant's been very considerate to the neighbours. It was quite considerate, pointing out all his faults so that they could, but they hadn't complained.
Right, those in favour? Carried, thank you. No, where are we? These are so long and involved. Item number 3, the Free Waste Facility Access Day, 5th of April 2020.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Hicks has moved and Councillor Shulg will second. Do you wish to speak?
Oh, look, I think it's something that was well patronised last time, so hopefully we can continue to keep it going. I think it's an important thing that we can offer the ratepayers.
Yeah, I think we need to start early and start getting them rounding up their gear, making use of the facilities.
Good comment, it's a pity, Madam Mayor. We don't take any, I know they're hard to, costly to dispose of, but the number 4 part of the recommendation, they're the real things that are thorn in people's side, and
Yes, acknowledged.
particularly the mattress and the tyres.
Yep.
Look, perhaps we had the experience from last year, perhaps we see how it goes this year and we continue to monitor it as we go through it, and it's something we can perhaps review in future years.
Perhaps the last one, there might have been a huge
Can I ask, was there any consideration to maybe reducing the cost of disposal of those items rather than making them free on that day, but actually looking to reduce part of the cost involved? I know there could be a large influx the first time we offer it, but it is extraordinarily expensive, and it certainly would help our villages and towns if those sorts of items weren't cluttered around housing.
Madam Mayor, look, our costs that there's no profit margin on disposal of those things, so it costs what it costs. Look, I think there's no way that tyres are going to taper off ever. I think tyres are never going to taper off, and they're a hugely costly thing to get disposed of. My thinking is if people are saving on some other waste, well, maybe they can offset that savings against the cost of this, but of these items. I think the other thing is, though, we really want to keep it a little bit simple for our staff that are going to work on this particular day with the fees too. If we start chopping and changing the fees just for one-off, might cause a bit of confusion. Because to open up all the landfills and do it all in one day, we're going to have to bring in some extra people. There's quite a lot of costs even there. Like Sunday, you know, the wages bill will be significant even in that. I just think I don't know how sustainable it'll be going forward if it's going to be an annual thing, if it's as costly as last year. I don't think they'll. I think gradually the waste budget will start slipping back into the red, where council has done a lot of work to get it out of that position over the years. So it is what it is. I think people are still getting the advantage of some free waste, and these particular items, well, they have to pay. But I think that just gives it more of a likelihood that it might be sustainable year in, year out in terms of the costs.
What about mattresses? I know they're a very costly item, and therefore all the welfare agencies are landed with them. There should be a way that if we were to rip them open and put them in landfill, there'd be an easy way to dispose of them.
I take on board absolutely what you've said, but there's also a cost to us of disposing of all the waste that comes free on that day. I'd like to test the meeting by moving an amendment that in number 4 we allow those items to be put in place on that day at our waste disposals at a 50% off rate.
Off the normal disposal rate for those items.
if you don't have, if you do move that amendment, my concern is if you don't have a limit on the amount of tyres that are there, the amount of tyres that are out in the community, even at a 50% reduction with no limit on tyres, you could end up with a lot of tyres. Council will have, it won't happen with the other items so much, but particularly with tyres, it's got the potential, people could bring a truckload in. 50% off, it's the cheapest place around to get rid of tyres, and then we'll have a big cost.
If I might then, I'd certainly take that on board. Perhaps we might, if the seconder agrees, include in that amendment that it be only from households, not from businesses, and that be a limit of only 2 tyres on that day, and that this be publicised, if it's carried, as a one-off, not to expect that this is to happen. If the seconder takes that on board, could I speak to my amendment? I don't know about other people and what they see around as they travel, but my mind goes back to after the Walla fires. I have never seen so much storage of large items on verandas, at the back of homes, and that's on big properties. But from a village and town perspective, I think there are so many people who simply don't have the opportunity, and maybe some of the service clubs might come on board, I'm certainly not asking them to do it, to assist those people who don't have trailers and the like to rid themselves of some of this type of stuff. I just see it as a real hazard for vermin and for fire in all sorts of locations, and I think it's worth testing.
Councillor Hicks, are you happy to take that on? Oh, no, sorry, Councillor Quinn. All right. Now, is there a speaker for?
Well, I was just going to speak sort of against it, I suppose you'd say, but not really. I was going to just offer up another suggestion. Could we possibly...
I really think we need to make a determination of this meeting because we need to do the advertising of it, and that part of that advertising, I would say, would be getting some information in our next rate notice, which goes out to the majority of people. And look, even last year we found that we still cut ourselves short. This year, we've got a lot of collaterals already sort of sorted out, I suppose, but I really think to allow the time to properly promote it, we need to make a decision at this meeting.
No, that's fine. I was just putting up another option.
Look, we might be able to do some investigation on that in the meantime, and
yes.
as the main thrust of it, I think we should try and set the parameters and the date for this meeting, and then we can work on promoting that over the next couple of months so that we can reach as many people as possible, because that's some of the complaints we get sometimes, that we don't perhaps reach everybody as well as what we could.
Councillor Schul?
Yeah, just a question, sorry, it's going on a bit. With the mattresses, to Mr Kane, is that service still available from Sydney that collects the mattresses to dismantle them and recycle the bits and pieces?
They all get recycled, not just out of Sydney now. There's a local recycler in Cootamundra. There's one setting up at Albury. Albury City have got a grant, I believe, to do mattress recycling and disassemble mattresses, and so we will look around and try and get the best price for recycling of the mattresses, which we'll pass on. Like I said, we're not really interested in making a profit margin on these things. They are expensive because of the cost of doing something with it. With the fridges, the law says you've got to degas them, and so the actual cost is the cost that it costs us for degassing them. Mattress, it's the full recycling cost. Tyres, the same. We've got really high disposal costs of tyres. So if we can get a better price because there's some local operators, we'll pass those on.
Councillor Quinn, do you wish to make a comment?
Madam Mayor, I think it's a change in the recommendation, but I think it's worthwhile to give it a trial for a one-off, and if it turns out to be too costly, well, naturally we can scrap the idea, but it's worth... The 4 items listed are the problems with rubbish management right across New South Wales anyway. So.
Councillor Knight, do you wish to round out on your amendment? No? All right, I'm going to put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hand. It's up there on the screen. Against? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. The amendment now becomes the motion. I'll put the motion as up there. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item number 4, the policy development, hours of operation for the pools policy.
I'll second that one.
Thank you. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Shulg. Wish to speak? Anyone? Councillor Meyer.
Question, Madam Mayor. There's been a fair debate going on in the press of late. Again, it's press-driven as to whether swimming pools should be free once the temperature goes past something reasonable. I don't hold with it. I simply want to know what our position is before we adopt this policy.
Well, look, I suppose this is something that we debated last year, but look, my view is that we sell memberships for the pool, which a lot of people across our shire buy, and making the pools free does nothing for those people that buy memberships year in, year out. Extending the hours and making the pool available for longer hours does provide a benefit to all people, whether they're buying a season's pass or whether they're just buying casual admission. And that's why we've written the policy in the way that we've written it.
Just on one thing about the pricing in pools, our pool pricing is very economical compared to other councils anyway. So if people are getting a free day 5 or 6 times a year but paying a lot more to go the rest of the time, they might be coming up worse than what our residents are anyway, because of it. Generally haven't put our prices up over a long period of time. They kept the price low. So,
Can I just... There's a thank you, a comment about the Hendy Pool. Can I say it now? But this policy also, I think, will save a lot of confusion if it's publicised that that's what's happening, because then everyone knows we're all on the same page and it just goes ahead that it's extended for those hot days. The Hendy Pool is magnificent. They're doing the person in charge is doing a fantastic job. It's presented extremely well. The water's sparkling, the barbecue is a hit, thank you, and it was booked before the concrete was dried to be used, so it's a real plus in the Shire. So I just wanted to make that point, if there's something can be recorded.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. On governance, the Drought Communities Program extension. Fairly self-explanatory, I think. Councillor Hicks has moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Weston, do you wish to speak, Councillor Hicks?
No, that's...
Any comments? Councillor Quinn, thank you.
Speaking against the recommendation, I believe that, and it's only my belief, I might be narrow-minded, that drought funding should be spent where the real drought is. I think out around Kaiwong Road, the area is very badly affected, and half this money should be spent on fixing up that road. It's an opportunity to fix a road up. It's a basic form of communication for rural people, not NBM or telephone. It's moving a car or a truck from one place to the other. Now, it would be very nice, and it is very nice, to have all the football fields upgraded, but I would contend that half them might be monuments in 5 years' time, because there mightn't be footballers about. There'll still be nice ovals. But if half the money was only to go to the sporting grounds, it would ensure that the clubs kick in and pay the other half. Whereas the way things are now, they bring in players from all over the country and pay them big money. And I don't think that's helpful for a community. So I can't think of the appropriate amendment, but I'm certainly not signing off on spending all the money on the ovals. I think some should go into rural roads out where the drought really is, out around Wellbundry and Brocklesby.
Councillor Knight.
I'd speak for the motion. I recall in the last long period of drought that we had, it was the government that told us that the priority had to go to our sports fields, and I was disgusted. But then I heard the reaction of the people and realised just how many people utilise them. And it's not just the football and the cricket and those people, it's also the general community and particularly our schools. And when the schools have a budget as less as they do have, if we can do something to at least help some of these ovals maintain themselves, I think we're doing something for the whole community. I take on board what Councillor Quinn has said. I wasn't mad keen on the placemaking or the adverse event plan, but I do believe that there are only minor amounts in the total of this and that the others have such benefits that it's worth pursuing.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer.
Mainly a question, Madam Mayor, in terms of have the General Manager and his staff thought how we would achieve all this with all the things that are on those sports grounds? It's not going to happen in a week at each ground.
No, and look, I think you're correct. It's going to be a challenge to organise it. But whatever we do, to some extent, is going to be a bit of a challenge because the funding does have to be spent by the 31st of December 2020, so they want the money out pretty quick. But look, we'd have to look if this was the desire of council tonight, we'd have to get it cracking on negotiating with some of those sports ground users to come up with alternatives for them to use other facilities for a period of time. You know, my thinking would be that with most of the grounds we'd have to move in after this year's football season, which I know is going to cause some issues in Culcairn, Holbrook and Henty, but there are alternatives. The problem is if we're trying to do three at once and make a mark, some of the alternatives are caught up in that, but there is secondary grounds in each of those towns that could be used for a period of time, say up till Christmas. But it's going to be challenging, there's no doubt about that. But look, the reason why I put this report forward was the sports grounds have been a problem with us for some time, and I think a lot of people realise that there are times when they're substandard, and this to me seemed a once in a lifetime opportunity to try and get 4 of them done in one hit, and make a mark on them, because if we're relying on funding to do them individually, then we could be still trying to get some of them done in 20 years' time, and I don't know how helpful that would be. But look, certainly there'll be some logistical issues, but I think we've just got to make it happen. And I'm sure if we go back to most of those sports ground committees and say, look, we've got a window of opportunity to do this, but this is what you've got to do to make it happen, then they'll find alternatives.
In terms of my local community, you won't have to go back to them because my phone's been busy most of the morning telling me how appreciative they'd be if this was carried. They haven't thought any further than how good it will be.
Very good. Councillor Schill. Councillor Schill.
I'm just a bit concerned about the other sports grounds. Is there a possibility then some of that balance that's left could be a little bit towards the village sports grounds that may need just a little bit extra help too with keeping their, maybe watering or something like that, just to share it around the sports, all of them. I mean, it's great to be doing the 4 bigger ones, Just a thought.
Well, look, certainly that's a matter for council, and there, as you can see, there is an amount of 150,000 left over. How that is expended would be, I'm suggesting we go through some sort of process to determine that. So, it could be part of that process. But obviously, the ones that have been selected, I guess, are the ones that are most utilised. But obviously there are opportunities there for some of the others as well.
Councillor.
If I could, I just had a question. Nowhere in here does it talk about only football grounds. It talks about playing fields. So it may be in some of these places that the sports committees, the ground committees, might want it spent on somewhere, making sure that the playing surface of somewhere else might benefit also.
Well, look, I guess the thing that we've been lobbied about over the last few years from Holbrook, Colcan, Henty and Gindera is the sports ground playing field. So that's the intent of the report, that it's actually the sports ground playing field that we're referring to. The oval.
All right, prepared to vote. Those in favour? Against? One against. Against? Generally carried. Thank you. Item number 1, state government funding for New South Wales public libraries.
Happy to move this recommendation.
Yes, great. They've been the poor relation for many, many, many decades. No. Seconder? Councillor Schill. Do you wish to speak?
You've pretty much said it. They are the poor cousin. Everywhere you go, they're becoming even more of a poor cousin. But the thing is too, I note that we haven't yet had an appointment with our local member with regard to the other subject. Perhaps this might give us a bit more to talk to him about when we do finally meet up with him.
Yep. Councillor Quinn, you wish to make us... No? Anybody else wish to make a comment? Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Crown Road closure and acquisition at Broxby. Thank you, Councillor Hicks.
I'll second ask the question. How much land involved? I couldn't figure it out.
Councillor Quinn has seconded.
Through you, Madam Mayor. It's basically only an internal road. When you look on the map of the Broxby Rec Ground, it's actually subdivided for residential blocks. It's basically cut up in half-acre blocks, the whole area there. So this only applies to an internal road running through the middle of, basically the middle of where the sports ground is. Not the oval, but where the buildings are and so on and so forth.
That's the one encompassed by the double red line.
Yes.
So this big
Yes.
lot, yeah. That
Yes,
one?
correct. That's right. It's not a huge amount of land, but it's a road, and we've found it difficult when we've been doing development out there, particularly the most recent development where we wanted to run pipes for an on-site sewage system, and they had to cross what was effectively a road. So to clear it all up, it's best that we just acquire the roads and they just form part of our land there at Brock.
Follow all that logic, you know what, I'm going to go to the sale and try and acquire, unless I'm going to buy 12 cans, I don't know. Just 1,000, you don't know whether it's 1,000 square metres or less.
I don't know the exact number of square metres, no.
Usual maps don't show it anyway.
Any discussion? No. Prepared to vote. Those in favour? That's been carried. Thank you. Item number 3, the licence for Lot 5 in Bed Street, Colcan. Who moved? Oh, Councillor Weston, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Quinn, thank you.
Why don't we call it a release?
Because it's a licence, not a lease. They're two different things. A lease gives you certain rights, and a licence gives you other rights, and we always use a licence.
Definitely goes to show, Madam Mayor, I'm not on the same planet, And leased the land for 55 years.
All right, we have a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item number 4, the Walbundry Hall Committee relinquished status of committee. Councillor
Yes,
Schill.
thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move to defer this item number 4 in regards to the Walbundry Hall Committee to give us a little bit more time in consultation. There's oh, I haven't got a seconder, sorry. Can I defer it? A bit excited. I'll pause and it's a seconder. Okay.
Is that the motion that you would like to move, Councillor Schill?
No, well, yes, thank you.
So we've got a second of that, which is Councillor Knight. And then...
Yes, I just wanted to say there is a little bit of movement in the town, and it looks like we might be able to resolve the issues. So we just need a little bit more time to get more specific information of requirements and the network between council and the new group. Yeah.
I'll just make a comment, Madam Mayor. Obviously, the preferred outcome is to establish another committee. So if it means that we need to delay things a little bit, then, and we can achieve that, then I think that'd be the best outcome.
Yeah, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
So, Councillor Schill, if you could, if there are people in the Walbundry community that want to go onto that committee, then we'll come out and have a discussion with them and explain to them what their role would be, so that there's no misunderstandings about.
Yes, that was something that was raised.
Yep.
That there wasn't quite enough information exactly what was expected.
Yep.
If it's an umbrella from another committee sort of thing.
Yep.
And whose role was what. Just to spell a few more things out and clear it all up before it goes any further. Thank you.
Is there any opposition? Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Policy development, recruitment and selection policy and the procedure.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer, seconder. Please, Councillor Hicks. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Meyer?
No, Madam Mayor, it's self-explanatory. I have every confidence in the staff's ability to meet the
Very
objectives.
good. Thank you. All prepared to vote? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Engineering, item number 1, the Drinking Water Management System Annual Report, 1819. Fairly awesome. Thank you, Councillor
Happy
Hicks.
to
I'll second the recommendation, Madam Mayor. However, I wanted to address a question to the General Manager in the sense that, probably the Director of Engineering maybe, in respect of the report that's got to be generated through Riverina Water to the Minister. This goes nowhere to meeting that obligation, is the question I'm asking.
No, not really. Look, it's certainly a document that the consultant that will be appointed in due course by Riverina Water would want to have a look at. But I think the integrated water management planning that we're doing, through... Sorry?
The wording of that only covers coal.
It does, but the coal can system will form part of that integrated water cycle management planning. So I think that's more likely to be of interest to the consultant, because he'll be looking at the 30-year capital works plans and those types of things. Obvious, as well as as our annual reports like this and our annual performance reporting as well. He'll be looking at that to see if there are any things there that look a bit perhaps worrisome that might inform his report. But we're quite confident that our performance reporting in the past has been very good, so we haven't got any real concerns in that manner.
Only concern is how much money we're going to spend overall, that's all.
It's not our money.
Well, we're not going to spend any money. Riverina Water are engaging the consultant, so I'm sure that they've taken that into consideration.
Councillor Knight, you wish to
I
make
just
a
want
comment?
to acknowledge the fact that it's fantastic that a government department is actually funding this.
Yes.
I've been on
At
this
the moment.
consultative committee for the last 3 years. I'm not on it now, so I don't have to declare an interest. But it is one of the very first times we've seen a department tell us we need to do something and then actually fund it, which is worth noting.
All right, councillors, to receive and note. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Items to be referred to the closed council. Item 1, potential land purchase at Holbrook.
So moved.
Is that the only one? There's another one, 1 and 2. Items 1 and 2. Thank you. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Quinn, thank you. Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Also moved part C and D that we...
Part B, yeah.
Part B, yes.
Madam Mayor, I have a question regarding Part
this
B,
one.
item number 1 on page 50. I'm wondering, can that be referred to the closed council at this meeting, just for a few questions?
It certainly can be.
Can I question how it might
To be, or can
Does
we
it
answer
need
the
to be?
questions? We can probably answer the questions in open council.
Seems to me... some of us have expressed concern about the ability of anybody in the general public to find out that you're banking with X bank and the mayor is banking with somebody else, etc., so forth, and it goes on from there.
Any orders at this stage, I think might be right with you. If there's questions.
Yes, if we can get a seconder. Do we
Suspend
wish?
standing orders.
Yeah, Councillor Knight. All those in favour, we suspend standing orders. Thank you. Carried.
In general, and we went through this same procedure in Wagga today at Riverina Water, there is some concern about some people fill their sheets in honestly, some don't. You make reference in this to the fact that some of that, shall we say, confidential information is going to be redacted. How far does that redaction go?
Well, only as we've intimated in the report, which would be your signature and your address, basically. Like your disclosure of interest of designated persons is a public document, so anyone can come into the council at any stage and ask to have a look at it, and we've got to hand it over. I think what councils have got to do is have a good read of what needs to be declared. And you know, if you've got a housing loan with Westpac Bank, it doesn't need to be declared. You've got to look at it more closely than that. It's around things that are going to cause you a conflict. So, you know, you have a good. We need to have a good read of the guidelines, because there are possibly some things that you're declaring that you don't need to declare. But if you've got other sources of income and things like that, well then certainly yes, you do have to declare those. So, and if you're a member of professional associations and those sorts of things, you certainly have to declare those. But other things you don't necessarily have to declare. So I'd you know, encourage councillors to have a look at that and make sure that, you know, they're not over declaring. You know, we certainly don't want to encourage you to under declare, but it's really about whether you're over declaring. But as I said, like at the moment they're a public document, so you fill them in. They're tabled at the September council meeting, but you know, Billy Smith from, you know, Holbrook or Colcan can come to the council office at Holbrook at any day of the week and ask for the disclosures of interest of designated persons, and we've got to hand it over.
So does that mean, through you, Madam Mayor, gentlemen, does that mean that the general public can know what property I own if they access that file?
Yes, they can. Yeah.
That brings on a different tangent to Councillor Meyer. That brings on
Is that
the...
live working?
It's working now. That brings on the comment that here a while back, and I'm not having a go at anybody, I tried to find out who owned a block near me because we wanted to mow it for fire risk, and I was blocked every which way. And this contradicts it.
No, it doesn't, because you're a designated person, Councillor Quinn. So
You're
designated.
definitely a politician answering that way.
No, I'm
It does
not.
contradict it.
I'm not.
Go back to 1956 English. It does contradict it.
No, because you're a designated person, and therefore designated persons have to make disclosures. But look, the legislation around personal information for the normal person in the street is quite clear. And look, you know, we did touch base with a neighbouring council to make sure that we weren't being overzealous in that particular request, and we found that our neighbouring council was doing exactly the same thing, exactly the same way we were doing it. So, look, it's just, I guess it's, you know, it's I guess somewhat unfortunate in some ways, but if you put yourself up for election as a local council, there are going to be certain things that you're going to have to declare.
Can I just, I had a feeling that you can actually go onto the Office of Local Government site now and actually look at it without having to go to...
No, we don't upload them anywhere. The only information that you would be able to upload, able to see from a state government website would be your electoral funding declarations.
The last part of my question, Mr General Manager, will councillors have the opportunity to look at what they have put in that sheet before you put it onto the web page?
I don't think that'd be right.
Yes.
Once you've done it, you've done it.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, when you've done it for the last 12 months, it's in arrears.
Last 8 years.
So, well, I know, but when you fill it out, you're filling it out in arrears for the last 12 months. Whether you could lodge an amended declaration, I think I'd have to seek some advice on that.
That'd be like going and redoing your exam after you'd seen the answers. Like redoing an exam after you'd seen the answers.
Look, I think if councillors have over-declared, you know, it's worth asking the question. So, you know, we'd be happy to ask the question. You know, what I might do is have a look at a couple of councillors' declarations and see exactly what's been declared, and then perhaps ask a few questions and bring a report back to the February meeting, if you like.
The other side of the question, Madam Mayor, is I wonder if it's a Premier version of
I would imagine so.
Would
But
you?
it just depends on what they've got.
Be
in
interesting
there.
to find out, won't it?
All right, I need a motion to resume standing orders. Councillor Hicks. Oh, sorry, Councillor Schill.
There is a comment I'd like to make. Is it appropriate to refer to another company that you are a member of the committee of? Like to refer, with all due respect to the Deputy Mayor, he's referring to Riverina Water a lot, like that's not part of our business. We're all councillors and we all belong to other companies and different things, but is it appropriate to be comparing what they're doing with what we're doing? If you can get where I'm coming from.
Well, Riverina Water is a local government authority just like we are. They're constituted under the same Act. And look, you know, I guess we often look at what our neighbours are doing as to whether, as I just referred to with Councillor Quinn, as to whether, you know, they might be doing things a bit different to us or perhaps a bit better or so forth, or, you know, councillors sometimes liaise with us around the same way. So I think there are often things that you can learn from, you know, from talking with your neighbouring councils, be it a county council or a general purpose council.
I have one further question, if I might. It says that must now be made publicly available, so it's not in retrospect, is it? It's from now on, there's a circular out that advises that the information will be disclosed from now on. This circular introduced a new way of doing things, so if anyone's worried about what they put in their last statement, well, it shouldn't be retrospective at any rate, and they now know to be a bit more clear in what they're declaring, whether it needs to be or not.
I'll get some advice, I think, and bring a report back to the February meeting.
Madam Mayor, what the GM has said in answer to my comment has sunk in, believe it or not, something to sink in. And the fact that I am a designated person, I'm out in the open and the others aren't. So in future, I'll just act with the mower.
All right, it's been moved that we resume standing orders. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Weston, all in favour, carried. Thank you. Now we have to deal with this.
No, second.
It's been moved and, wait, where are we? Has it been moved and seconded?
No. So
No.
Part B, we've got
Oh, sorry.
we've got two reports in there. Sorry, Part B, we've got two reports in there, so we can resolve to accept those as a block.
Okay.
Yeah,
All of Part B, Councillor Hicks and Councillor Knight. All in favour? Carried. Thank you.
and I'll move part C and D all in one block.
Part C and D. Very good.
Happy to take questions, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hicks, any questions? Councillor...
I did wonder why we were looking at the workshop briefing sessions when we've already passed all those dates.
Can I, hang on a minute, can I just get a seconder, sorry? Seconder? Councillor Quinn. Now, Councillor Knight, sorry.
Just wondering why we were having to have a list of the schedule when all of those things have already passed.
Well, it's just talking about the current session of dates.
Yeah, look, I thought about taking it out, Councillor Knight, and decided, well, look, it's a record of the workshops that run over the year. I'd leave it there and we'll start afresh from next year. So, look, you're right, it could have quite easily come out, you know, early in the new year. I think when Mr Blackie gets back from holidays, we'll sit down and work out, you know, we'll have some pending workshops on things like, you know, our roads workshop and that we normally have towards the end of January. So, and I'll assume, as it always is in the early part of the year, there'll be quite a few around budget workshops and the like. So we'll try and get that out early in the new year.
Question, Mr General Manager, on page number 53 we've got this workshop briefing sessions, but all those dates have got 2019 after them. We should be talking 2000.
No, that's what we just...
Yes, that's what we just discussed.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
they're the workshop dates in retrospect.
So perhaps the wording, the current session was what...
Yeah.
I looked at everything because I'm thinking this is not the current session.
Yep.
Past. Thank you.
Point taken, Councillor Knight.
All right, now we have this signing of the contract, is that, where's that? Here, this is
That's a matter of
urgency.
So have we
Yes.
It is a matter of urgency.
have we...
You'll move that it's a matter of urgency. Councillor Knight and Quinn, thank you.
And then I'm going to put it down.
That's it, this one?
Yep.
That one, this one.
This one.
Losing my place here.
You might just say what the matter of urgency is.
Yes, the matter of urgency is regarding a signing of the contract for the licence to occupy unit number 6, Kalar Court, and that's a report that was prepared by Mr Smith regarding that licence to occupy. Any comments or questions?
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Madam Mayor? It's just timing-wise why it's a matter of urgency in that the resident or the incoming resident only signed the agreements and so on after the agenda went out. But this has been a long time in the making, this agreement. So it's why I wanted to get it to this meeting so we can get it done.
I've got a couple of thank yous and comments. Can I bring them up now? It's really difficult when we don't have those questions without notice. I think there's a lot of things that really need to be mentioned in the meeting setting and recorded, but anyway.
There is the opportunity for councillors to make a delegates report, if you wish to do that.
Sorry, to make a...
There is an opportunity for a councillor to submit a delegates report if there are certain things like thank yous and so forth that you wanted to be recorded as part of the council agenda.
Take that on board.
Yep.
It's the Burrumbuttock can I say it now? Yes. The Burrumbuttock Primary School that I attended the Year 6 celebrations today, and they especially asked that I thank the council on behalf of the Burrumbuttock Public School for the donations. And the Wabundri Grounds Committee also wanted to have mentioned that a huge thank you and appreciation from the council with their support and ongoing assistance from the staff and all the outdoor crew. It makes their job much easier, and they really do appreciate the interaction that you have and the working, situation that you do have out there. Thank you.
All right.
Quickly, another commercial, if I can have one.
A commercial?
Well, yes. At the beginning of the meeting, we always say a prayer. How about we pray for rain? Nobody seems to have that concept around the country or much. We could include a little, just ask God to give us rain, show a bit of a lead. By and large, Greater Hume is a Christian community, and it might get a few other people going. I actually believe that the climate is changing, but the only way to get beneficial rain is talk to the Almighty. And so if you think it's appropriate, Madam Mayor, well, I hope it will get legs.
Hands of the councillors, what do you want to do?
Who's actually saying the prayer to include anything they want to.
Yes.
And that's certainly appropriate
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
Yes. But there might be, we might need to do that in the coming months. Yes, thank you. Now, we have some items which have been referred to the council, by the council, as a matter of, no, we're going into, where are we? Confidential. Closed.
Can I ask what now happens with the videoing?
Well, yes, that's a very good question.
I will answer that, seeing I'm the technical person in charge here tonight. We mute it, to put it simply. The video, if they want to look hard enough, perhaps they can.
But I'm not.
There might be some good lip readers.
It'll be muted, but the vision will still be there.
Fair enough.
So yes, I suppose if someone wanted to be that diligent, they could microphone, look at and read lips and so on, but...
So we've got some earplugs for the members of the press, so she doesn't
Unfortunately,
No, the public gallery and the media press will need to vacate the room, please. Thank you very much. I need a resolution that the meeting be closed during the discussion of the item of business referred to in the confidential section of the meeting.
So moved, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
Knight and Councillor Hicks, all in favour? No, I don't think so. Resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 1993, Council enter into the Committee of the Whole for the discussion of the following items of business, which I will name in one moment. I could probably do that. Items 1, the potential land purchase at Holbrook, and 2, the sale of land for unpaid rates under Section 713 of the Local Government Act 1993. So can you close the door in a minute? Can you close the door? Thank you. You'll so move. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Moved Councillor Hicks, seconded Councillor Knight. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Been the meeting.
Well, hang on, we just need to unmute.
Unhooked, is it? Right. That the ordinary meeting be reconvened for the purpose of determining the report of the matters dealt with in the committee. Need a resolution. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Knight, all in favour? Carried, thank you. And there is a resolution that the foregoing report and recommendation from closed council, Committee of the Whole, be adopted. Resolution.
I'll move that.
Councillor Hicks and Councillor Meyer, all in favour? Carried.
You might outline the recommendations that were adopted in the committee, Madam Mayor.
Okay, the recommendations were that, does this go out into the public? That if necessary, the General Manager be authorised to undertake preliminary investigations of a key development site in Holbrook, and number 2, up to $25,000 be made available for such investigations to be funded from the Holbrook Caravan Park Reserve. And number 3, and at an appropriate time, a further report be submitted to Council for consideration. And the next one is the sale of land for unpaid rates. The recommendation is part 1, Council List 60, Lot 61, 11 Wattle Street, Culcairn, for sale by private treaty. And item 2, Council list the property for sale with landmark Pitson's Holbrook at a sale price of $32,000. Number 3, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate a sale within the range outlined in the closed council report to the December 2019 council meeting. And number 4, the Mayor and General Manager be authorised to execute documentation associated with the contract of sale under the common seal of council. Okay.
Mr Smith, I'll have to change that word execute.
Oh dear. Now we've resolved that the foregoing report be recommended and resolved. That's done. Just before I conclude, I would like to wish everybody a very merry and safe and happy Christmas, and I'd ask the General Manager if he would extend Christmas greetings across the Shire to all of our staff on behalf of the Council.
I'll certainly do that, Madam Mayor.
Thank everyone for a good year, and let's hope we have a nice wet year coming up, which would be delightful for all of us. There being no further business, the meeting closed at 7:20. Oh, these meetings were confirmed. There we are, done.